Okay, this video is to help you guys make sure that you understood photosynthesis and membrane transport. So going over your worksheet, just starting with cell transport and photosynthesis, water is moving into the roots of a plant without energy. The water, so again, we're seeing water and water, it moves into the cells through the process of osmosis. So whenever we see water, we should always be thinking osmosis. On the diagram, it asked you guys to label where there would be a high concentration and a low concentration of water, the soil or the roots. So if we're looking at our diagram, here we have the soil, little arrows pointing at the soil, and this one is pointing at the roots. And the water is going to go from the soil into the roots. So here we're going to have high water concentration. And in the roots, we would have to have a low water concentration to move from the soil to the roots. Question 4 said to draw a cell model to show what would happen if the water in the soil had a lot of salt in it. So here is our cell, and our cell usually has about 70% water. And in this scenario, they said there's really high salt in the soil, which means there's low water in the soil. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a higher concentration of water in the cell compared to the soil, and the water is going to move out of the cell. So we see this sometimes in saltwater environments near the beach where the soil might be really salty. You have to get salt-tolerant plants. All right, looking at the chunk of questions from numbers 5 through 8, the picture showed you guys the xylem cells, and these are non-living cells in the plant. They are transporting water, okay? Which way up or down does water travel? It's going to travel up, so from the roots to the leaves. What organelle in the cell controls whether water can enter or exit? What's entering and exiting the cell? This is going to be the cell membrane again. Through what process will the water move through these cells? We're talking about water moving. So again, this is osmosis. And then in order for water to move by osmosis from cell number 1 to cell number, so from cell number 1 to cell number 2, what must be true of the concentration of water? So water moves from high concentration to low, and I have my arrow going from 1 to 2. So I have to have high water concentration in cell 1 and a low water concentration in cell 2. So cell 1 is going to be high, cell 2 is going to be low. So, how is it going to compare? Cell 2 must have lower H2O concentration. All right, moving on to questions 9 through 20 as we carry on with photosynthesis. When water reaches the leaf, it evaporates into the air if the conditions are right. That movement of the water from the leaves to the atmosphere is called transpiration. And we haven't talked about this yet this year, and you will not be tested on it next week. But when we do the ecology unit, we will talk about transpiration, which is the evaporation of water from the leaf to the atmosphere. Number 10 said, where would there be a higher concentration of water vapor, the air or the leaf, if the water is evaporating? So if the water is going from the leaf to the atmosphere, then there has to be a higher water concentration in the leaf. So the leaf has to have high water. So think in really dry air, the water evaporates out of the leaves. Number 11 said, what organelle is going to store excess water? The excess water is going to be stored in the central vacuole. So remember, the central vacuole stores water in plant cells. Once the plant has the ingredients, photosynthesis will begin. The plants depend on photosynthesis for survival. What does this provide to a plant? The plant is going to be provided with glucose and oxygen. So those same products that are produced, the plant is going to use. What are the reactants or ingredients necessary for photosynthesis? In order for photosynthesis to get started, we need these. We're going to need carbon dioxide, so CO2, and we're going to need water and some sunlight. In what plant structure does photosynthesis happen? It happens in the leaves. In what organelle does photosynthesis happen in? It's happening in the chloroplast. Once photosynthesis is complete, what products have been made? So what are the products of photosynthesis? And the products are going to be the glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen. Glucose has to leave leaf cells in order to travel to other parts of the trees. Through which cellular structure will glucose exit the cell? The glucose exits the cell through the cell membrane through a protein channel because it's going to be moving through facilitated diffusion. Oxygen leaves the leaf cells. Through which structure will oxygen exit the cell through? Exiting the cell, the oxygen is going to leave the cell membrane, and specifically it is going to diffuse through those phospholipids. Number 19 said, in order for glucose to move from the leaves to the branches, what must be true of the concentration of glucose in the leaves compared to the branches? So if it's going to go from the leaves and to the branches, and it goes through passive transport, then we're going to have high glucose in the leaves and lower glucose in the branches. So high glucose where it's made to low glucose. Number 20 is just what is that equation for photosynthesis? And so that balanced equation was and is 6 water molecules plus 6 carbon dioxide molecules go through a chemical reaction called photosynthesis, and it's going to produce glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen gas, O2. Hopefully this helped you guys checking your worksheet. So double check. Did you have all the answers right? Is there something you missed? Do you understand it better now? Hope you guys have a great day.